I'd love to start with something Adam said right at the beginning. So I'm not sure if you heard this or not, and then dive into exactly what Scott said, discussing innovation in the fan experience and how that can change, particularly with the new arena that you're building. Adam mentioned at the top, in the context of potential private equity investment in minority stakes, but if you look more broadly than that, just in general, that the NBA has what he called a high-class problem, ballooning valuations, making it difficult for what he said individual investors to afford. So if we take that thread and pull back at it a little bit, I'm curious, because in terms of a controlling stake in the team, not the minority investments we were talking about with the commissioner, when Scott and I did our first Sportico Live, we had the ownership of the Dallas Cowboys on, and we said, is your team, based on their different rules in the NFL, too big to sell? I'm wondering, to make a long story short, when you purchased the Clippers, you spent $2 billion. The bankers said you were crazy, and the market quickly proved you right. Do you see a point where these entities are too big to sell in terms of controlling interests to at least to individual owners?
Well, let me sort of answer that two ways. One, the answer is obviously no, just in the sense that if somebody's willing to buy, they're willing to pay, therefore you can sell it. Now, the only question is at what price, not whether they're too big to sell. The question is what really would be the valuation in a transaction. And part of the thing that I know you guys have to think about is how do people get enough capital to buy these things? And can that be a limiting factor? I think the answer is absolutely yes. I mean, you have to have at least one partner who will come up with 15%, and let's say 15% for rough numbers of, I'll use a team a little bigger than we are according to your valuations, but let's say 15% of $3 billion. You got to come up with $450 million to start. Then you get a tranche of debt on the team. I'm not even talking about real estate and surrounding activities. And then you get minority partners. And minority partners, it's fun, but you have no control. And all of a sudden you have to have minority partners who come up with over $1 billion. So yeah, I think it is a limiting factor on what teams will sell for, i.e. what their literal valuations will be, is the ability to put together enough capital. Now, it all happened to work well for me. I'm delighted. I've got a great team in a city that I really enjoy. But I think this will prove more complicated. Although, as teams have come up, Utah came up, Ryan came in, boom, sold. There still seems to be pots of capital out there, and people who are excited about the game of basketball and willing to buy teams.
So I promise you, we're going to talk about the fan experience. But you just mentioned real estate. You are building a new facility in Inglewood, basketball only. Do you see this continuation of pro sports teams simply as tentpoles, though, of larger operations? You can't have a mom and pop sports team anymore. You better have a media entity. You better have some real estate. You better have an accelerator, or else you fall behind. What will propel the growth of the valuation of pro sports team? Is it these outside entities, or will it be the teams themselves?
Well, let me start with the fact that, and with respect, if you buy a team, you don't care about valuation. You care about how much your gain is, right? I mean, I'm not going to sell my team, but if that's how you think about it. And valuation is a function of not necessarily. Let's say we build a big fat new arena, which we're working on. It's going to be the best.
When are we going to have a name, by the way? When are we going to have a name for this thing?
Soon enough, Scott. Soon enough.
You heard the name, Scott. It's Big Fat New Arena.
Big Fat New Arena.
Big Fat New Arena works for me. But, that'll cost a lot of money to build. Will it improve my economics? It only improves the economics if it has a big return associated with it. Now, we're building in a neighborhood that is just being in the process of wildly developed because we're right across the street from SoFi Stadium. So we don't have a big ancillary real estate play to go make lots of money. So our valuation would go up. That does not necessarily mean that my return on investment would have improved because of the real estate investments that we're making. Now, that's okay with me. I would say if people are looking to absolutely maximize return on investment, I'm not sure the first place I'd go would be a sports team. Sports teams are fine. They're not a bad investment at all. But if you're really just out there trying to, pump up 16, 18% returns, blah, 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 lever up, I don't know, all that stuff that people use, because, software business is a little simpler than that. But at the end of the day, you can get valuations that are growing and yet not have people making a lot of money. We can't do the tentpole thing. There's not enough places in LA where you could possibly have found a big enough chunk of land. And we know exactly when we have to have our new building open. We have to be out of Staples Center at the start of the 2024-2025 season. So it's not like we could sit there and say, well, let's bide our time, see if some big plot of land grows up, make some money. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit, but I think you get my drift.
But Peter, you know what he can do? And I was a beta tester for your Court Vision app. So you're going to love this, Steve, because I'm an old man. You see the gray here. The part of the game where the shooting percentages were above the head and it kept changing as the players moved on the court. I got dizzy. And that's literal. I got dizzy. I couldn't watch it. I gave it to my 10-year-old son, and what did he say? This is the best thing ever. So you tell me, how are you going to present Clippers basketball to the old, the young, whether it's linear, is everybody going to have an a la carte option? How am I going to consume Clippers basketball?
Yeah, I think obviously I'll talk about it from my perspective, what we're doing with our game. Now, obviously we're part of the broader NBA ecosystem. And so there's a lot of things you want to watch
about them.
Fine. I'll just talk about how I think about it then. Look, everybody deserves an experience that is personalized to them, that lets them be in control of what they want to see, that is augmented, does not necessarily have to match exactly what you would see with a physical eye in the building. And we have all the technology available to us to make that happen. That's how you get people to be more engaged, more stimulated, more pumped up about the game of basketball. The user interface of these things has to get better and better. We don't want you, Dizzy Scott. This is for kids. We need to make sure, I think what you were started with is what I would call almost alpha version. We're now 3 seasons in or so, and we're getting better and better. The tech is getting better and better. You just keep pushing. And this is all software. At the end of the day, you get a chance continuously to improve the facilities, the user interface, the simplicity, heck, gaming. And when I say gaming, I mean fantasy and or betting as it comes alive. How do you integrate that into the consumption experience? It can be done. Needs to be done. What's the best way to do that? What's the user interface? How do you make that a part of what keeps people engaged? Adam was talking about the loss during timeouts, during halftime. No, let's make that a time when people can interact, can engage, can do something themselves. If we have one integrated digital experience, that can be done. Now, are there ways to distribute that also through linear television? Sure. You might not get all the interactivity, or you may need a second screen. But if literally you have a digital connection, boom, the sky's the limit.
Now, we were told that you yourself tested out about 30 different seats to find just the right one for the big fat new arena. I'm wondering, in terms of the design process, obviously, exactly what you're talking about, Steve, tech and new innovations is part of it. But what else can you take us, walking us through this design process in terms of how your project is going to be different from any other that has existed to date?
Well, let me first say I found very few things as exciting, frankly, that I've ever been involved with as designing an arena. It turns out I have a lot of opinions and a lot of points of view from what I call old world to new world. Look, at the end of the day, people deserve a seat that is comfortable, but not so comfortable that you don't cheer. And you deserve a comfortable seat, whether you're sitting in the upper concourse or whether you're sitting down in the lower bowl. So, yeah, we tried seats. How wide are the seats? How much leg room do you get? How much visibility do you get in front of the heads in front of you? Seats. Rotate them in. See how they feel. Okay, can we make enough room for all of these seats in an arena? I mean, frankly, I optimized. That's old world. I know that's not what you're getting at, Peter. But if you don't get the old world right, you can kiss off the new world. At the end of the day, it's about getting fans in the building, getting them pumped up, having them be comfortable, but be at the edge of their seats, ready to go, ready to help their team be better by their energy. Now, how do you use tech to do that? I think you'll find, not that I'm going to go into detail, I think you'll find that we're going to try some things with display technologies that have never been done in basketball before. Hopefully they work. I mean, we're gonna do them. I think they're cool as heck, but you got to do them, and hopefully they work as well as we think. Fan experience. One of the things that constantly goes through my head is how do we get fans back in their seats as fast as possible? How do we make sure people aren't dilly-dallying if they don't want to, for food, for bathrooms? So we're going to use some tech to try to speed and improve the whole experience, with the point of view being other people who are going to want to, for whatever reason, not be in their seat. But I want this to be, look, you can watch the game at home, and it's going to get better and better in the ways we just said. So how do you make that fan experience, that bonding, that ability to come together as a group? How do you make that extra special? And part of that is you just got to make it easy for people to be in that arena. And we got some technology that we think will help with that. Those would probably be the two big ones I would highlight right now. The one thing I don't want to do is do tech for tech's sake. I know I worked in the tech business, blah, blah, blah. But come on, man, this has got to be about the basketball fan and what the basketball fan needs.
Steve, let me ask you this, because I hear the solution all the time is this thing right here. This is the solution, right? I think this is your enemy to a large extent. If you want a premium in-arena experience, this gadget is your enemy. Maybe a wearable is your friend. I'd like to know the collective heart rate of the arena, fun things you can do. How do you view this thing with the relationship with the fans watching your players on that court?
All right, so let me say what the enemy is. I don't want to just declare a crusade against phones. I don't want people, in my perfect world, I mean, a fan gets to choose. It's the fan's experience. But if everybody's doing this while the game's out there, that is not a winner.
You know who doesn't do that? And you let me know if this is a good analogy for you. The Duke student section, the Cameron crazies, do not look at their phones during game action.
That is a good example for me. In the kind of environment I hope we can create for our fans, you want people so energized, Scott, and so involved that they're not looking at their phone. Now, what is it that causes people to look down at their phones? I mean, that's the thing you have to say. Well, there's
besides Sportico breaking news alerts, you mean?
Sportico breaking news alerts, I know is number one. But we don't need your phones to get you a Sportico breaking news alert. We can put those up on big screens in the arena. How's that?
Todd Barish, our partnerships chief, I want you to call this later. Call this number later.
But what is it? Well, your life, you may be interested in the rest of your life. That says to me, are we creating enough excitement and entertainment in the building? Are we making it easy enough for you to interact with your friends in the building? So that's something we can work on. Number two, are you looking up game action? Do you feel like you have to look down to see statistics that we make it hard for you to see in the building? That's something we have thought about and are working on. You can go to things that are so betting. Betting will be something. Betting's a little tougher to do. You might be able to do it with a wearable. The problem with wearables is, we get through our building every year. What do we get? I think we said 2 million people, something like that. Did I do my math right? Yeah, over that. Through our building. No, I didn't do my math right. 20,000, 200,000. Yeah, about 1 million, almost 2 million people a year through the building, a little less than that. And, the notion of wearables, when you have so many people coming in and coming out, people sell their season tickets. They don't use them every game. They give them to friends. So it's not really just the 20,000 people per game times 40 games, the 800,000. I did bad math there. That's not my thing is good math. Anyway, you get more people coming in the building. How do you get those wearables out? How do you put them out there? I think that it's fine to ask people, Scott, to use their phone. I just think we have to ask them to use their phone for almost nothing. Yeah. You might need to use your phone to come into the building. It might help you buy a concession, no matter how you're buying. But other than that, you shouldn't have to use that phone for a darn thing.
Yeah. I hear a lot about analytics, customer analytics. And I'm wondering, are you interested at all in predictive analytics, where that beacon will tell you Scott and Peter just came in. Scott likes a Diet Coke. Peter likes a beer. And by the time I get to my seat, it's waiting for me.
That particular scenario is doable. Probably not one we're optimizing against. I'll say probably not. That doesn't make it a bad scenario. But when you have people doing a lot of delivery to seats, it actually detracts from the fan experience for the people who are around you. So you need a model that says, are we trying to bring people in to distract you, or are we trying to make it near real time that you can leave, go to the bathroom, grab something to drink, and come back? And we are optimizing around that pattern, because I don't want to have people disrupting the flow of the game for our fans.
Got it.
Because one last question, going back to the valuations perspective. Scott mentioned right at the outset the word accelerator. And we write in the story how the 76ers have an in-house accelerator. The Dodgers in LA have an in-house accelerator. We know that you're an investor in Second Spectrum, for example. And there's a lot of data analytics companies, sports companies, things like that company that are at the nexus of the two that are taking off. Why not have an in-house accelerator for the Clippers and bring it under their umbrella?
You mean just like our Second Spectrum investment? I mean, there's no real difference between me and the Clippers when it comes to this stuff. But why not do an accelerator?
Sure.
I'll be direct. I love being in the tech business for 34 years, and I love technology. But I'm retired, if you will. And in my retirement, man, I'm about basketball. I'm not about tech. Making it sound funny. I've done just fine economically in my life. I don't need to trouble myself with, if we have an incubator, accelerator, if it feeds my interest, I'll do it. And if not, my wife will tell me my life's too short. Just go to games. You can be happy with that. Go to games, build the arena. I got excited about the Second Spectrum stuff. Boom, we make an investment, and that's a good thing too. But as much as I love tech, baby, I'm a basketball guy now.
I cannot wait to get to your building, Steve. Thanks so much for taking the time. We do appreciate it. We're going to be following all the stuff you're doing, because we know you have that fan focus. I'm not attacking anybody, but we know that isn't every owner that looking to maximize that fan experience. You do. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on. Thanks so much, Steve.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Peter. Really appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of the conference.
Thank you.